Hi, everyone. So this is another TOEFL Prep webinar. My name is Jonathan, and we'll be getting started in a few minutes. So last week we were looking at a few reading samples and going through the strategies for answering those questions. And we're going to be continuing with the reading section today. So I'm going to be checking to make sure the audio is working. So I'm going to be going back and forth between the website here, because there was a little bit of an audio problem last week. So just 1 second here before we get really started. And if you can hear me, please let me know. I would appreciate a comment to say, yeah, the microphone, the audio is working. Okay, I can hear myself fine. And as a reminder, you probably want to go onto the settings function for the video and raise the quality from 240p to 720. That will give you the high definition quality here, and you can probably see me, see my screen a little bit better. So I'm just looking here, a few comments so far. So yes, it's working. Thank you, Anastasia. Hi, Nastya from Moscow. Nice to see you. Maxime. So yeah, we've got a couple people here joining so far. And thanks for joining. Thanks for your comments. So if you were here last week, let me know. If you have questions for the reading section, let me know. And so yeah, I will be keeping track of the messages. I see them popping up on my cell phone. As you can see, I am still locked away in my daughter's bedroom here. I hope I will not be like the BBC dad whose interview was interrupted on live television. So my children are still on vacation, spring break here, and next week we'll continue with the familiar background. So this is a different background here. Okay, so that's no problem. If this is your first time here, welcome. I think we have started to put together a playlist of previous lessons. So this is, you can binge watch these TOEFL Prep lessons. I usually associate binge watching with Netflix or some of these TV series like 24 or Friends. So you can binge watch these TOEFL Prep lessons if you want. So far, we have gone through a basic introduction of the TOEFL and TOEFL versus IELTS, as I do prepare students for both. I have had students for both. I have taken the exams, both of them myself, and I scored a 9 on the IELTS. That was 9 for the reading, listening, speaking, and an 8 on writing. I do recognize what the mistakes were for the writing section there and what to avoid. And for the TOEFL, I took that in February a few months ago, and I scored a 117. So that was a 28 on reading, a 29 on listening, a 30 on speaking, and a 30 on writing. So again, I recognize that I constantly have to update my strategies, have to constantly learn and see the results that they get and the resources and the materials that we use together. I keep improving the lessons, the strategies with the students, and I want to share those best practices, best strategies with all of you. So as a result of my reading score, I have realized I need to go in and tweak a few things and get even more specialized in the reading section. So this is an opportunity for me as well to keep improving those strategies and to share those insights with you. So yes, you can see those previous lessons. So yeah, we've done that introduction, TOEFL and IELTS. We've gone through the 6 speaking questions. And what's been great with these webinars is that we've been able to include, for the speaking section, we've been able to include speaking audio live from viewers. So you can listen to student answers to those questions, participants in these webinars. And section, we have looked at actual samples from students and from these webinar participants, and looking at strategies for both the integrated and the independent essays. And now we're looking at the reading section. We've gone through some of the initial questions, like vocabulary related ones, finding information in the text. And last week we didn't really get into the details of the sentence insertion questions or the last question, which is the summary for the entire text, which is usually 2 points. And that ends up being one of the more difficult questions, not just in terms of the content and potentially kind of note-taking, although some students will not be necessarily taking notes, but it's also for the test anxiety and the test stress. This is usually at the end of those 20 minutes that you have to read each passage. So you have an eye on the timer and you are trying to calmly go through the passage, reading probably the first sentence, the topic sentence of each paragraph, to get a feel for what is the purpose of each paragraph, what is the point that is trying to be made, how does it relate to the overall title of this passage, and going through your questions. You have between 12 and 14 questions per passage, so you do need to keep track of the time, probably about a minute per question, and realizing some of these questions might be easier. And if they are easier, you can allocate the time that you save from an easy question to allocate that time towards a more difficult question towards the end of that. So some of these difficult questions might be the paraphrasing question, these sentence insertion, where you need to be sensitive to pronouns. Pronouns are things like he, she, it, they. So you need to recognize what those refer to. Some of that wording might be a context clue for where you're going to insert the sentence, and then getting into the summary question. Thank you, Nastia. Nastia is also from Linguatrip, and she's also answering a few questions here. So yeah, she's written a comment here with a playlist. So yeah, that's the playlist that you can go back and take a look at these previous lessons here. So that's a great way for you to get repeated practice with some of these topics, since an hour is actually a lot of content. And I recognize from my experiences with other webinars where it's usually very intense, a lot of information, a lot of slides. Even if you're taking lots of notes, there might be something that you don't quite understand the first time you hear it. So you might need repeated exposure to the same content and to kind of let it digest a little bit, and to kind of practice the technique and practice the strategy, especially for an exam situation like the TOEFL. It's going through these steps over and over again. Even for myself, I know these strategies, I know these techniques that help students, and I practice them myself. I need to go through them and get better and better using them and practicing them with students. And when something is not working, then I will kind of reassess that and try to look for a better option, a better strategy. So I'm constantly kind of evolving with these strategies as well. And it does help to kind of see the content, how does the exam work, what is expected of you in each section, and how can you get the best out of your preparations, whether with a short time or with lots of months of preparation or lots of weeks of preparation. So there's a lot of content that we're putting together here for you, and we definitely hope this is very, very useful for you. So also keep letting us know your questions for each of these sections. So if we have covered something before in the speaking section or the writing section, you can still ask us, and we can still kind of point you in the right direction of where to look. Maybe which video would answer a question, specific reading questions. Feel free to let me know with those. So today we're going to continue with the reading section, like I said. And last time, if you were able to watch that, I was giving you samples from ETS themselves. These are materials that you can find on their website. But one of the things that can be a little slightly misleading with the ETS materials, especially with a reading passage, is that the way it will appear on the screen, especially with some of the, especially also with the official tests that they have in the book form, the page layout is not exactly the way it's going to appear on the day of the test. On the day of the test, you're going to have a split screen, and on one side you have the reading passage, and on the other side you have the questions. And a lot of the text is just very compact and very kind of not so reader friendly. It's not kind of like a website with a lot of flashy design and bright colors and spaces and clutter as well that would maybe distract you. This is, on the day of the test, the screen looks very simple, very black and white and gray. Nothing really to distract you. It's just black text on white screen. You have the split screen for this. So I'm going to show you, ETS does have a TOEFL Prep IBT interactive sampler that you can download. I will show you that. I gave you the link if you scroll down through the comments. My first comment said that we're going to be taking a look at some of these sample reading passages from the IBT sampler. So I'm going to show you my screen for the ETS website where you can find these materials. So I'm going to share my screen here, and please let me know in the comments that you can see my screen, that it's appearing correctly, and I would appreciate that. So I probably don't need to wear these anymore since you guys have said that the microphone is working correctly. So just 1 second here. Okay, so you should see my screen that has the ETS website. So please let me know if you can see my screen. I would appreciate that confirmation. This probably takes a few seconds here for you guys to see my screen. And on here, this is ets.org/TOEFL/IBT. Thank you, Elena, for the confirmation there. Okay, and this is IBT/prepare. So these are a lot of these free materials. Some of them are that you pay for. And so if I scroll down here, they've got some of these test prep online for speaking, and they have the official guide. I have these two official groups of tests, the Volume 2, Volume 1, and I also have the official guide. Here you have the online prep, and then here when it says the free test prep resources, this is the interactive sampler that you can download here. So When you go here, this is the link. This is the link that I gave you directly on there, and then it's you download this. It's about 140 megabytes. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on Mac, so it's just on the Windows platform. And then these are the descriptions here, and then here's the link where you actually download this. So after you download that, then you you have the program itself. So let me see if I can switch screens now so you can see the program itself. So sorry, I'm going to switch back here, and then I'm going to switch to the screen of the program. Okay, so now can you let me know that you see the screen? I'm going to check my screen as well here. Yeah, okay. So there you have the screen for the TOEFL. Unfortunately, I don't think I can really zoom in on there as much as I can. I've tried to do like make enlarging the screen or zooming in on it, but I think that's as best as I can do for the TOEFL prep screen. So that's why I would also recommend that you later on, if you have a chance to download this program for that. So okay, so again, you say here you can see this. That's good confirmation there. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look through the questions here. So you open this up and you'll click continue, and then it's giving the general testing information here about how it works. And I'll get into the reading section directions, which you might as well want to take a look at these directions before you actually take the test, so that you know. So on the day of the test, you don't waste your time going through the directions. So these directions you can find in a lot of the test prep materials in general. And so it's basically telling you you have the 20 minutes per passage, and you'll have either 3 or 4 potentially. Right now on the sampler, they're saying 2 or 3, but actually you have either 3 or 4. Everybody has probably about 3 passages, which could probably take about 60 minutes. So 20 minutes per passage. If they're doing an experimental one, then you might get an extra 20 minutes and an extra passage there. So you won't realize that until the day of the test, which one you're going to have. Don't panic. Just go through all of the questions the way you would normally do for all the other passages. You won't know which one is the experimental one, but just stay calm, stay focused, and keep going through the test. I have mentioned before that the reading section, as it is the first one on the test, it can be a bit stressful in terms of kind of forgetting your daily life, forgetting the stress of getting to the testing center on time. Just it can be the first few minutes. It can be a little difficult to just disconnect from your life and get into the test. So you do need to kind of practice that a little bit, like not just the test materials themselves, but the experience of how do you kind of close your eyes for 5 seconds, kind of like a yoga reflection, or to just kind of disconnect. And so, okay, breathe deeply, close your eyes, and then say, okay, I'm in the reading section. I'm here in the testing center. Let's get started. So you don't want to waste your time reading these directions on the day of the test. So get used to them, know them, memorize them if you want to before the day of the test. That way you can focus your energy where you need to focus. So which is the test itself, not the directions. Okay, so I'll click continue. And let's say our first passage here is this one. So I have on my clock, I'm going to keep track of these 20 minutes. And we're taking a look at this one text here, which is about these cave paintings. So Lascaux cave painting. So, and I see in the top sentence here, Southwest France. So this is, okay, Lascaux, France, cave paintings. So that's a few of the things. Okay. Sorry for any of the background noise. If you hear, as I mentioned, I have my kids here at home today. Okay, so I'm going to be reading the first sentences here, trying to go through the reading passage itself. At this point, you can see I have the text on the screen. It looks very compact, the way it would appear on the day of the test. And so you have the text here, and you don't have a lot of space. And as you can see on the left side of the screen, that's where the questions are going to be appearing. But the first opportunity is that you could just read the text itself. Okay. Okay. If there are any comments here like that you can't see the screen, you may want to refresh the page, the website right now, and to check the screen. If somebody else says they can't see it, could somebody else confirm that you can see? That would also give me a little bit more confirmation that it might be just one person, or if it's multiple people who can't see. Okay. So as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs, or 6 paragraphs of text on here, and it's very compact. I have a hard time kind of just reading all of this. Okay, yes, unfortunately, I know the image is not itself very, very, very clear. I would prefer to be able to kind of zoom in on the screen so you can see this more clearly. But this is the exact same material that you can download later and really get a chance to take a look at, and maybe listen to my audio as I'm going through this if you have the sampler yourself. So also the comment here with the settings on YouTube, with the video here, you can click on settings and raise the quality from up to 720. That usually helps with the clarity of the image. Okay, so let me get going through here. So my first sentence is, Southwest France, the 1940s, children discovered this grotto and a series of caves, cave chambers that contain huge prehistoric paintings of animals. Okay, so we're looking at cave paintings. They've got animals. Okay, I don't really need to care too much about that the children discovered this, but I just know that they exist in this one place. Okay, now the next passage here, one of the most puzzling aspects of the painting is their location. Yeah, I'm glad that helped you with the image there. Okay, so one of the most puzzling aspects of the paintings is their location. Okay. Next, scholars offer 3 related but different opinions about the mysterious origin and significance of these paintings. So I get the feeling there's questions. People they don't understand the question, the paintings and the caves. Another opinion is that the paintings were directly related to hunting and were an essential part of a special preparation ceremony. Okay, so there might be something related between the paintings and a ceremony. A third opinion takes psychological motivation much further into the realm of tribal ceremonies and mystery. The belief that certain animals assumed mythical significance as ancient ancestors or protectors of a given tribe or clan. Okay, that's a lot of dense information there in that one sentence. Okay, now moving on to this last part. Perhaps so much time has passed that there will never be satisfactory. Unfortunately, I can't see that on my screen correctly. Okay, so there's talking about time has passed on this part, but there's about 3 opinions or 3 theories related to this text. Okay, I'm going to get going through the questions themselves on here. So I will click next. You'll see this at the top of the screen. So on the reading section, you just click next. And later when we get to the listening section, you will see I will try to go through this, show you briefly with the TOEFL interactive sampler, the listening section is a little annoying with these buttons because when you click, you have it's next and okay, or I'll have to confirm that, sorry. But you have to click 2 buttons to confirm for each question. For the reading passage, all you do is click next and it'll go to the next question. But on the listening section, for some reason, you have to do 2 buttons to get the test to keep moving forward. Okay. So here, when I click next, it's going to show me the first question. So they're going to give me the word others in gray. So it's highlighted. So I'm now going to start looking at this sentence. But basically, my first process here was kind of looking at the first sentence of each paragraph, getting an idea of how is this probably going to be developing. I haven't actually yet read the passage. I've just read the first sentence of each one to get an idea of how is this text going forward. Okay, so as we did last week, we looked at some of these vocabulary questions and synonyms. We'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. So yes, okay. So the word others, in this case, I'm going to say this is related to some follow each other's in solemn parades, but others swirl about sideways and upside down. Okay, so I think that is referring to these word beasts. So beasts is the animals. So the animals, beasts, and this others. So I don't think they're talking about the chambers. I don't think they're talking about the paintings. I don't think they're talking about parades. So I would say here this is the beast, and then I would move on to the next one. Okay, that was probably a simple one to start with. Okay, the word methods in the passage is closest in meaning to, so I'm going to be looking up here. So methods of applying color varied. So I think that's probably something related to painting. Okay. Of applying color varied. Some colors were brushed or smeared on rock surfaces and others were blown or sprayed. So I would say here ways of applying color. Yeah, I think as a synonym here, methods and ways. So again, we have a vocabulary question. And I'm trying to do this quickly so that I can move on and take that time and allocate it to another harder question. So now I've got, okay, what are the bones found in the Lascaux caves believed to indicate? Believed to indicate. So what are the bones found in the Lascaux believed to indicate? So indicate for me means like kind of a, what can I infer? What can I conclude? Or what are they evidence of something? So I don't have an indication here of like which paragraph this is pointing to. So the bones, I'm trying to look here. I haven't read the full thing. Okay, so I'm going into the first paragraph. I see the word bones here. So I'm trying to think this is maybe the next sentence following that previous question about methods. So yes, okay, this question is referring to this first paragraph. So since I haven't yet moved on to the second paragraph, I'm still in the end of the first paragraph. So it is possible that tubes made from animal bones were used for spraying because hollow bones, some stained with pigment, have been found nearby. Okay, so they use these bones in the painting process. Okay, so wild animals sometimes lived in the cave. No, I don't think that's the relationship. Artists painted pictures on both walls and bones. No, I don't think that was the point. I think if they say that there was pigment like inside the bone, it's probably because they were using that to blow, as they use the word the word blow or sprayed. Artists ground them into a fine powder to make paint. No, the paint wasn't made from the bones. So artists developed special techniques for painting the walls. Yeah, okay. I would say that is the most appropriate way to interpret that question, where they use the bones in the painting process. Okay, so I would use this one, D, and I'll move on. Okay, next, now I have an arrow pointing to the fact that we're in the second paragraph. So up until this point, I was still in the first paragraph. So keep aware that the reading questions will go kind of in order of the passage. They're not going to be skipping around like first paragraph and then last paragraph, and then let's go back to the second or third. They'll be going in order. So that'll kind of control your sanity a little bit, knowing that these questions go in order of the text. Okay, now, and then usually they will make this reference. So in paragraph 2, so that makes it a little bit easier for you. Because say, why does the author mention Bushmen in South Africa in paragraph 2? Okay, so I'm trying to looking for Bushmen here. One of the most puzzling aspects of the painting is their location. Okay, so there's something about location. Other rock paintings, for example, so other rock paintings, this means they're going to give me an example of something different, a different place. So they're going to be a contrast here. Other rock paintings, for example, those of Bushmen in South Africa, are either located near cave entrances or completely in the open. Okay, so this is a contrast of this location in South Africa versus cave paintings in France and Spain, however, are in recesses and caverns far removed from original cave entrances. I'll probably stop there because that's probably the question is related to this first part of the paragraph. Okay, so why does the author mention this? To suggest the ancient artists from all over the world painted animals? No. To contrast? Yes. I think it's B. Yeah, the first word contrast there is key. To support the claim that early artists worked in cramped spaces? No, I don't think that was related. To give an example of other artists who painted in hidden locations? No, I don't think it's that. So I would say this word contrast, that's the first thing that caught my eye. And in the paragraph itself, there's the word other, and there's the word however in the next sentence. So I see that they're using a contrasting technique with the writing style and in this question here. Okay, so I will put contrast. I recognize that. I did look at the alternative wrong answers just to make sure to rule them out and not get distracted. But a good technique here is to kind of look at the question, go to the material, get a feeling for what is it that they're looking for, not get really too distracted with the wrong answers or what potentially could be a wrong answer to trick you. Okay, so next. Okay, I'm still in this paragraph 2. What can be inferred from paragraph 2 about cave painters in France and Spain? Okay, so I'm going to have to keep going on here. So cave paintings in France and Spain, however, are in recesses and caverns far removed from original cave entrances. So I can understand that they're not at the entrance. Okay, this means that artists were forced to work in cramped spaces and without sources of natural light. It also implies that whoever made them did not want them to be easily found. Since cave dwellers normally lived close to entrances, there must have been some reason why so many generations of Lascaux cave dwellers hid their art. Okay, so there seems to be something about secrecy, something about that they had to maybe use fire, and that they were in a like a dark area. Okay, so they also painted rocks outside caves? No. They did not live close to the cave entrances? Maybe. They developed their own sources of light to use while painting? Yeah. Their painting practices did not last for many years? No. I mean, they found the paintings several hundred thousands of years later. So it's not A, it's not D. If I had to pick between B and C here, they did not live close to the cave entrances. Well, I don't quite see here about the fact that they live there. Okay, since cave dwellers normally live close to dwell. So this, I think this is more of C, about them. They're using a source of light or creating one. So it's saying they didn't have natural light, which is in this section, source of natural light. So I'm going to have to go through this one. But you can see I was maybe a little tricked about the B or B or C answer, but I think the point of this passage is the source of light. So I'm going to go through that one. Next, this, again, a shaded text here, secret ceremonies. Okay, so why does the author mention secret ceremonies? Okay, why? Okay, so this is in the last sentence of this next paragraph. I'm Well, I've already read the first line before. Some scholars offer three related but different opinions about the mysterious origin. Okay, one opinion is that the paintings were a record of seasonal migrations. Okay, because some paintings were made directly over others, obliterating them, it is probable that a painting's value ended with the migration it pictured. Unfortunately, this explanation fails to explain the hidden locations unless the migrations were celebrated with secret ceremonies. Okay, so to present a common opinion, no. I think this article is talking about that there could be alternative opinions, so there might not be really a common one. Okay, so to suggest a similarity between two opinions, no, that doesn't sound like a very convincing answer. To suggest a possible explanation for a weakness in an opinion expressed in the passage. Okay, to give evidence that contradicts a major opinion expressed in the passage. I'm thinking that it's a weakness. Say, unfortunately, this explanation fails to explain the hidden location. I think it's C, to suggest a possible explanation for a weakness in opinion expressed in the passage. Yeah, I would say C on here. Okay. Yeah, that's, I think, the reason why they would mention this. Okay. Again, we have another vocabulary word. So accompanied, I think this is, it's not represented, it's not developed, it's not came after. I would say it's C, associated. So I know this word, I know its meaning, so I can kind of go quickly through this one. I don't really have to look at the sentence in the paragraph. I could, yeah, this opinion holds that the pictures in whatever ceremony they accompanied, associated, yeah, okay, associated with, makes sense in this context as well. Sometimes you do have to be careful with the word. It might have multiple meanings. So if you do have a little hesitation, I would suggest reading the sentence the way it is in the paragraph, because context is usually important to really clarify the usage of a word and its meaning. Okay. So next, okay, according to paragraph 4, so this is getting down, realize you can scroll the text on here. So so now I have the arrow, paragraph 4. According to paragraph 4, why do some scholars believe that the paintings were related to hunting? So why did they believe that? Okay. Another opinion is that the paintings were directly related to hunting and were an essential part of a special preparation ceremony. Okay. This opinion holds that the pictures and whatever ceremony they accompanied were an ancient method of psychologically motivating hunters. It is conceivable that before going hunting, the hunters would draw or study pictures of animals and imagine a successful hunt. Okay. Considerable support exists for this opinion because several animals in the pictures are wounded by arrows and spears. This opinion also attempts to solve the overpainting by explaining that an animal's picture had no further use after the hunt. Okay. So according to paragraph 4, why do some scholars believe they're related to hunting? Because some tools used for painting were also used for hunting? No, they didn't say that. Because cave inhabitants were known to prefer animal food rather than plant? No, they don't mention anything about that. Because some of the animals are shown wounded. Yeah, okay, yeah, they have the key word there, wounded. Because many hunters were also typically painters. No, they didn't mention that as well. So I will say this is C. They have the key word there, wounded by weapons. Sometimes you do want to be careful if you see the exact same word, wounded, like this, because they could trick you with exact words, but in a wrong conclusion. So just be careful if you see exact word. Many times you'll see a synonym or a rephrased kind of alternate way of like a different word form. So not the exact one. So for example, if I had the word information, I might see the adjective informative, or I might see the verb to inform. So be sensitive to alternative word forms so that both for your reading skills and also in your writing skills and also your speaking skills as well, it's good to have some variety there. Okay. But yeah, in the reading section, just be careful if you see the same exact word. In this case, it did help me, but in other cases, it could be a trick if I wasn't paying attention. Okay, so I'll keep moving on here. So we're now getting to question 9 out of 13. We've had a lot of these vocabulary questions, finding information in the passage. Now we're getting into another reference question. So according to paragraph 5, why do some scholars refer to a trance state to help understand the cave paintings? Okay, so a third opinion. Okay, we've gone through that. So we've moved past paragraph 4. Okay, a third opinion takes psychological motivation much further into the realm of tribal ceremonies and mystery. The belief that certain animals assume mythical significance as ancient ancestors or protectors of a given tribe or clan. Okay, that's a lot of information. I'm going to keep reading. Theory, the strange, indecipherable geometric shapes that appear near some animals and the few drawings of men. Okay, I don't like this writing style. It's very dense with all this vocabulary. Wherever men appear, they are crudely drawn and their bodies are elongated and rigid. Okay, some men are in a prone position and some have bird or animal heads. Advocates for this opinion point to reports that people who have experienced a trance state, a highly suggestive state of low consciousness between waking and sleeping. Okay, I'm not certain if, I think this next one would be paragraph 6. So I'm going to stop here. I think this is all of paragraph 5. So this is, again, why I don't like the reading section, because sometimes it's not so obvious of where a paragraph finishes and where the next one starts if they don't properly indent it. So that could be the middle of the paragraph, or that could be the next paragraph. That's not quite clear to me. I'm going to stop there, though. I don't like this paragraph, and I'm going to probably get a headache from the questions themselves, not from the answers. So according to paragraph 5, why do some scholars refer to a trance state to help understand the cave paintings? Okay. Just guessing here, not looking at the answers because I don't want to get too distracted by them. But why do they refer to the trance state? Well, because there's some strange images here. Yeah, so okay, basically these pictures look strange. So maybe you draw something strange when you're not completely awake, or you've taken some drug that would put you into that. Okay, so to explain the state of consciousness the artists were in when they painted the pictures, maybe. To demonstrate the mythical significance of the strange geometric shapes. So this is a difficult question for me. And okay, I'll keep going. To indicate that trance states were often associated with activities that took place inside. I don't think it's that one. That one seems... Okay, to give a possible reason for the strange appearance. Okay, yeah, strange appearance of the men painted on the cave walls. That one seems to be the only one that seems to kind of jump out at me, because and I don't want to waste too much time on this question. It is worth 1 point. I would like to get the highest score possible, but if I have to kind of like skip a question because I'm running out of time, or I'm getting close to the end of this passage and realize like I only have about a minute worth of energy or focus per question. So I don't really like this paragraph. I don't really like this question. If I have to lose a point, okay, it'll end up being this one. But my first strategy with this kind of question, well, it's kind of give up. I don't want to waste my time. But if I do try to kind of take a step back, concentrate, I try to focus on like really, what is the point of this paragraph? What is this information about? There's a lot of difficult vocabulary that's in here. Like even for me as a native speaker, there are words that would not be so obvious. Sometimes they're like prone position. I recognize the word elongated and rigid. So I get like the really long drawings that substantiate this theory. So they're trying to use some really academic and also a little obscure writing style, maybe just to test my vocabulary, test my understanding. But they're not writing this paragraph, this particular one, to make it easy for me. So be aware there might be a paragraph like that, or a couple, or several. And sometimes you do have to kind of weigh your odds of, okay, if I'm going to lose a point here, it might be this one. So I can maybe focus my energy on another question, or like, if I have to, I could skip this question, leave it blank, come back to it later, because there is a review button here, review questions. So this is a place where you have that kind of a choice there of like, well, if you can't concentrate on this question, if you are not focusing, if it seems a little like you don't want to read it 2-3 times because you're going to run out of time for the other questions. You want to make sure you answer the other ones. So this is one where I think I did get some sense that the last answer, D, is probably what I would put. But I think I might have to come back to this one. If I'm running out of time, I'll make sure to kind of click and put an answer. I'm not going to leave any answers blank because I don't want to run out of time and then get that like not answered. So if you do run out of time, make sure you kind of try to get your best choice answer. So in worst case scenario, you're doing 1 out of 4 answers. Try to whittle it down to like 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 2. It's like a 50-50 chance if you have to. But don't leave any answers blank, because it's not like other tests where you might lose points for wrong answers. This is, if you guess correctly, you can get a point. So you're not going to be penalized for a wrong answer. So I'm going to leave this as D and move on. But just to be fair here, I did not like this paragraph. I did not like this question. And this probably, if this was a real situation on the test, and as I told you before, I got a 20 out of 30. So there were at least 1 or 2 questions where just I did not particularly enjoy 2 passages that I had. And I do recognize that the test, it's just kind of a lottery system where you don't know what you're going to get for the read passage. It's the strategy, it's the technique, it's going through these passages over and over again and testing your skills and testing how well you can do this, how fast you can do it, and where do you focus your energy, where do you skip. Don't skip and leave blank, but if you have to skip, make sure you go back and review before the timer runs out. So normally there would be a timer up here below the next question. Okay, so I'll be moving on. Okay. So now question 10 here. According to paragraph 5, if the man pictured with the bird-like head is not a shaman. So this still is paragraph 5. So that's another thing I don't like about these reading passages. Like, some of these are just a monster paragraph of content. And if you get kind of distracted or you can't really focus, it can be a little difficult. So you might want to take a few notes to keep yourself focused and not just give up completely, because it can be a bit overwhelming. You need to stay focused, stay calm with these materials. You can do it, you can get through it. You just have to practice more so that you don't go into the day of the test going like, oh, this is the first time I look at a reading passage. What do I have to do? Go through as many of these reading passages as you can online to get that practice. So this is one that's free. You can go through this and practice it. And because this material is so dense, I highly doubt that you're going to memorize all these answers that I'm giving you today. So you could go through this test, the same one, like a month from now and take it again. I'm pretty sure you're going to forget all the answers I'm giving you here today. So you can go through materials multiple times because you might not remember answers. Okay, so again in this paragraph. So according to paragraph 5, if the man pictured with a bird-like head is not a shaman, he may have worn the mask. Okay, so I have two. Okay, so I'm looking at the purpose of like why did he wear this mask? So and they've given me the word shaman. Well, they're not giving me the word. They're just saying if I don't know that word, I can click it and it'll give me a definition. So if I click this word, yeah, it pops up. Holy people who act as healers and diviners. I can close that. So if there is a word like that, you can click that. They will give you the definition so you don't get completely lost for technical terms. So, but they're talking about shaman, but they're saying if they're not a shaman. So Okay, so I stopped previously about this trance section. Okay, uniformly, these people experienced weightlessness and a sensation that their bodies were being stretched lengthwise. Advocates also point to people who believe that the forces of nature are inhabited by spirits, particularly shamans, who believe that an animal spirit and energy is transferred to them while in a trance. Okay, one last good narrative, which shows a man with a bird-like head. Okay, here is the bird-like head, and a wounded animal would seem to lend credence. So that means like make people believe. Would seem to lend credence to this third opinion, but there's still much that remains unexplained. Okay, that's not very clear. For example, where is the proof that the man in this picture is a shaman? He could as easily be a hunter wearing a head mask. Many tribal hunters, including some Native Americans, camouflage themselves by wearing animal heads and hides. Okay, so why is he wearing the bird-like head? To look like an animal while a hunt took place? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it does say that in the last few sentences. To frighten off other hunters? No. To prove that he is not a shaman? No, I don't think that was the point of the paragraph. To resist forces of nature thought to be present? No, that just seems misleading. Okay, I think I would go with answer A here and say to look like an animal while hunting. So I will put that because of these last few sentences that talked about he could as easily be a hunter wearing a head mask, and they give some evidence about camouflage. Okay, now getting into here. So unfortunately on my screen, because I'm doing the screen share, I can't properly really read this paragraph. But okay, so according to paragraph 6, why might be puzzling questions about the painting never answered? Okay, perhaps so much time has passed that there will never be satisfactory something there. Yeah, that I can't read that because of the screen share. Importance. Certainly a great art exists, and by its existence reveals that ancient human beings were not without intelligence, skills, and sensitivity. Okay, so maybe this emphasis about too much time. Okay, so 11. Okay, I'm keeping the paintings a mystery. No. Artists hid their tools with great no. Too many years have gone by since the painting. Yeah, I think there's evidence about this. Too much time has passed, or so much time has passed. I'll say C. Okay. That seemed a little easier. Okay, now getting into the more difficult question here of this sentence placement on here. So, okay. I have the sentence. This made it easy for the artist to paint and display them for the rest of the cave dwellers. So I've got two pronouns, this and them. So I have to figure out where I'm going to put this in the sentence. And this made it easy. So there's probably some information in a previous sentence about some characteristic or some feature. Okay, so okay. One of the most puzzling aspects of paintings and their location, other rock paintings, for example, those of Bushmen in South Africa, are either located near cave entrances or completely open. This made it easy for artists to paint and display them for the rest of the cave dwellers. That could work. I mean, the fact that the paintings were located near cave entrances and completely open, and yeah, that would make it easy for the artist to paint and display them. Okay. Cave paintings in France and Spain, however, are in recesses and caverns. Well, if it's recesses and caverns and it's difficult, that would not make it easy for them to paint. Okay, so I wouldn't use B. This means that artists were forced to work in cramped spaces and without sources of natural light. This made it easy. No, if they were in a cramped space and they didn't have natural light, that would not make it easy. So again, I would not use C. It also implies that whoever made them did not want them to be easily found, and that made it easy for or to display them. No, if they're talking about if they want people to like not find them. So I would not say D. C or B. So my only choice here is A. So my first idea here is that, yeah, A, it fit, it made sense, made sense. So I would use A. So this could be potentially difficult, but there's at least one or two details in this sentence that connect with the rest of the paragraph. So I can be sensitive to those context clues for that. So I'm going to say A. Yeah. And then as I click that, it inserts the sentence. So this makes it a bit easier for me to kind of read the passage and test this. So if I liked it there, that's one choice. If I move it here, it'll switch it over here. If I put it here, so you can click on these squares and it will help you see how the sentence incorporates into the paragraph. And I think it works best there as A. Okay. Then last is the summary question. So this can be really difficult if you run out of time. It's got 2 points. Oftentimes I'm trying to tell students, like, be careful with like very simple sentences. That could be like not enough content there. So, okay. So scholars have wondered about the meaning of the subjects, location, and overpainting of Lascaux Cave images. In my choices, I've got 6 choices here. The paintings may have recorded information about animal migrations. You can see at the top of the page, if I need to go look at the text itself, I can click View Text. So here I have the text again. I can read that if I need to, and I can unclick that. Yeah, view question. Yeah, view question. Okay. So scholars have wondered about the meaning of the subjects. The paintings may have recorded information about animal migrations and may only have been useful for one migration at a time. They did have that. Be careful with this question if you're using important information. It says that at the top here. Express important ideas. Some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not present in the passage or are minor ideas. So you have to be careful here about, like, there might be something in the passage, but it might not be that important. So you need to be able to distinguish between important information and just a minor point on there. Okay, I think this is true. I would include this. So I will click that and place it here. Or it doesn't matter which order you put these in, as long as you put the sentence in here. That here, it's just as long as you are able to kind of drop these here. The human figures represented in the paintings appear to be less carefully shaped than those of animals. I don't think that's really important. I think that was a very minor point that was made. Unlike painters of the recently discovered paintings, other Lascaux cave painters usually painted on rocks near cave entrances or in open spaces outside the caves. I think that was just a tiny point about, like, trying to show some focus about what made the Lascaux caves different from the other ones. So I don't think this was so much about, well, the meaning of their subject, location, and overpainting. No, I don't. No. I don't think that's really an important point being made. I think it was just I think there was just an introductory distinction on there. Okay, some scholars believe that the paintings motivated hunters. Yeah, they do mention that. I think that could be an important point here of why this is related, of like what was the purpose of the painting. Okay. Again, I can't really read this very well. I'll have to hold that. Okay, then now I can read it. It is possible that the animals in the paintings were of mythical significance to the tribe, and the paintings reflect an important spiritual practice. Yeah. Yeah, they did mention that. I mean, there could be reasons why, like, they use this in a ceremony. So yeah, they did take time to talk about that. Okay, well, I've got all the 3. I may as well also take a look at this other sentence there. I don't know if I can click that. I can't read that. Scientific analysis suggests that the paintings were sprayed onto the rock walls, tubes, the bones. I think that was a. I thought it was just that was not an important feature of the essay. I think that was just like one tiny point about how they were made. I think these three would be the most important ways to summarize this text. Okay, so I will end this here, but yeah, this trying to reflect on. I've gone through the essay, I've gone through the information, trying to realize like how did this information relate? Like these three, I've got 6 choices here, but trying to keep a focus on how this relates to this paragraph as the summary. So if you feel like this question, like the summary question, is a little difficult, I would keep suggesting go through more and more of these and trying to figure out like doing this filtering process of how did this relate to the overall context of that reading passage. Was this an important point or was this a minor point? And don't get too distracted by like minor points. So this question is worth 2 points here. And so if you get one of those wrong, you're not going to get a complete score for that. But so this, as you can see, I've taken about an hour, and I would take 20 minutes on the day of the test. But this has been a way to explain my strategy, my rationale, looking into the passage, what would be the information that kind of jumps out at me, how would I be looking at the question and the information in a possible tricky question or tricky answers to avoid that. So there are lots of reading passages that you can go through online. There are lots of examples from ETS. So go through them, practice them multiple times if you can. And really with the reading passage, it's just practicing your skills, practicing your strategies, and realizing like you just have to go through them over and over again because you don't know what kind of material you're going to get on the day of the test. So you might have science, you might have anthropology, you might have biology, you might have economics, you might have history. You don't know. So you just have to be able to kind of apply these techniques, stay focused. If you need to take some notes, do that to just not give up or not lose focus. But okay, so I'm going to finish here. Then this would be the end of this passage. I'll click next, and it says I can either review that or exit and go into the next reading set. So so this is how the TOEFL sampler would continue. So you would get another reading passage and then another one. So you would get 3 passages on there. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. But overall, these are some techniques. These are some strategies to work with the reading passage. Oftentimes in the lessons that I teach with students, we usually end up focusing more on the speaking section and the writing section. That's usually where students want to get my feedback. But I do recognize I sometimes need to kind of guide students and kind of be over their shoulder and see what they're doing. So what I did today of kind of going through the reading passage and verbalizing my logic or in the passage, I do recommend this to students. Like there's one tool that's called like Screencast-O-Matic. I think you can make a video of your screen, or also like here at Google Hangouts and a YouTube, you can make a video, and with a timer. You can set a timer on your watch for like 20 minutes. I think Screencast-O-Matic, you can do that for like 15 minutes. And you can have your webcam, you can have your microphone with that. But it's just a way to kind of time yourself, but also keep track of like your speaking while you're doing the reading passage and kind of explaining your answers. So Also on the day of the test, I mean, this takes a long time to kind of go through, explain this question by question. Why did I choose this one? Why did I choose that one? It gets faster the more you do this. But if you can kind of explain this to somebody else, which is what I was doing here today, that sometimes can kind of explain it to yourself as well. So if you can kind of think of the reasons why you explain this to somebody else, of like, well, it looks like in the passage they said here, like that in this sentence they said that. That's why I pick this answer. So if you can go through that rationale and do that in a recording, I do recommend that to some students to like send me that recording, maybe not an hour long like I did here today, but if they can do this for 20 minutes, like just respect the time limit of the test and say, okay, we're doing this 20 minutes. Send me that audio recording or send me that video so I can see the passage and that, or just send me an audio recording and send me a link to the what is the read passage and the questions. And if I can have access to both of that, of here's reading passage and the questions, and here's an audio file, just like we've used before with the SpeakPipe voice recorder. I think that's limited to 5 minutes though, but you can find other alternatives, or an audio recording on your phone, or another website, another app for recordings. It's one way that you could share with me your logic of, here's this question, like explain it to me. Why would you choose this answer? Like what did it say in the passage to convince you that that would be it? And as I can hear students with potential reading issues, or misinterpreting something, or getting distracted by a confusing wording, or just something that's just wrong, this helps me kind of identify what could be some problems for each type of question that are on the reading passage questions. You have the overall 12 to 14 of these questions. You have different ones, and it's really important for you to kind of identify which ones are your weak ones, which ones are your strong ones, so you can kind of focus your attention on, okay, I really struggle with the summary question, so you'll have to keep going through a lot of those. Or, oh, my vocabulary is pretty good. Okay, I get a good score on the vocabulary questions. So there are lots of apps and websites that are out there. Many of them are for free, and they can give you reading practice, and they can give you also reports on these questions of which ones you're doing well on, which ones you're doing not so well on. Okay, if you have other questions, please feel free to leave these here in the comments. I've been seeing a lot of you following along. I know this is not so easy to see on the screen, but I wanted you to be able to see how it's split, so you can see the way it will appear with their materials the day of the test for that. So thank you for your feedback, both of you, Anastasia and Asya. And let me see if there's any other questions from throughout here. Okay. And definitely thank you, Nasia, for checking out people's questions here and answering them while I was going through the materials here. But great. So I think a lot of you have gotten some questions here answered about where you can watch some of the replays, where you can watch some of the previous lessons for that. So so you're welcome for this lesson. I'm happy that you attended, and next week we will be continuing, and we'll be looking at the listening section, and we'll be looking at like note taking with the listening section. So keep working on your listening skills this week. Come with questions to ask me, and we'll be looking at the listening section and note taking skills. Okay. Thank you. Have a great evening, a great day, great afternoon, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Take care.